Okay. My name's Anna Willis. I'm one of the case managers at CASA of Cecil County. Thank you all so much for coming on. I wanted to let you know, first off, that this is being recorded just because there's some people who might not be able to participate, and we wanted to be able to share what was discussed here with them as well. Also, if you are not speaking, if you could mute your audio, that really helps keep the noise down in the background and keep any feedback down. So CASA of Cecil County has been around for 5 years now, Julia?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, everyone. Julia Hodge, I'm the director of CASA for Cecil County. Thank you so much for joining us.
So this is just an opportunity for us to share a little bit of information with you guys. And we're going to start with just doing quick introductions. So again, my name's Anna Willis. I'm a case manager, and Julia already introduced herself. Let's go down to Chess. You'll just need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Let me unmute myself. Yes. My name is Mike. It came up as Chesapeake Office, which is the name of my computer. But my name is Mike Biter. And now I will mute myself.
Thank you. Jean, are you able to hear me yet?
No, she said she was going to sign off because she couldn't hear.
I think that she can now. Hold on. Oh, hold on.
Unmute yourself, Jean.
You're muted, Jean.
Uh-oh, she might have left.
There we go.
Here I am.
There you are.
So just
and Jean, introduce yourself.
Oh. Hi, I'm Jean Wagner. I'm the sort of the finance manager right now for CASA. I'm the operations manager as well.
Okay, and we can jump to Kristen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen. I'm the program manager at CASA.
And Sally.
I'm Sally Warner. I'm one of the case managers.
And Joanne.
Hi, I'm Joanne, and I'm just here to listen to the session. So I'm friends with Andrea and Alan Johns, and also I know Lynn Sweeney, who's a volunteer as well.
Wonderful. Tracy.
Hi, I'm Tracy Plano, and again, also just here to learn more about the program and opportunities or ways I can help.
Great, thank you. And Tom, I'm trying to unmute you. Let's see if this works.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay, my name's Tom Tomaszek. I'm retired journalist and interested in the program and perhaps helping.
Wonderful, thank you so much. So Julia, do you want to give a little bit of history about CASA and sort of how it all began?
Sure. So in Seattle, Washington in 1977, there was a judge by the name of David Sukup who was listening to a permanency plan, which you will learn about later, and just felt like he didn't have enough information to make a good sound decision for the child before him. So he called a meeting of a lot of lawyers and community people to come together so that they could discuss what they could do to make this better. And hence the CASA program was born. So that was 1977, and there became a realization that abused and neglected children were often inadvertently re-victimized, and the system was overburdened, understaffed, and under-resourced, as well as the courts, and obviously the public social service agencies. And that's when CASA program came to be, so that volunteers could come and advocate for the best interest of the child and or children. It came to Maryland in 1997, and it came to Cecil County in 2015. So we're a very young program, and we're still building. And we thank you for joining us. And I hope that you get on board and help us with the children that need some guidance. Thank you. And came to Cecil County and board and help us with the children that
Thank you, Julia. I'm assuming that Brett, this is Tom. Oh, your audio isn't working. All right, that'll do for now. So we're going to go over some of the some typical questions that are often asked of us regarding CASA, but if any point you have a question that pops up, feel free to unmute yourself and just tell us what you need some more information about. So one of the biggest questions that we get is regarding the training process for new advocates. Advocates undergo a pretty rigorous training schedule. The most recent trainings that we've been doing have been a hybrid training, which means that part of it is done online and part of it is done in person. Kristen is our training expert, so I'm going to hand this over to her to give a little bit more information about what that training looks like.
So our training, as Anna said, is a hybrid version. It's partially online, partially in person. That's what we have done. If we can mute our mics, I don't know who's unmuted, but I just don't want to echo. But partially online, partially in person. That's what we've done in the past. We're kind of working around things to do in the future, depending on how long social distancing will occur. But it's approximately 30 to 40 hours of training. And there is also a court observation. So that time you would come into a courtroom and observe court cases that we hear regularly that are under the CINA umbrella, which stands for Child in Need of Assistance. And that is the type of court that we attend.
Thank you, Kristen. And like I said, Kristen is sort of our go-to trainer. She typically is the lead facilitator during those trainings. Sally and I as case managers and Julia as our director often will be in those trainings as well, not necessarily in most of them. Tom, go ahead, Tom. Okay, okay, I think he's all right. So Kristen sort of mentioned the court observation, and court is a big part of what we do. As a CASA, you are expected to prepare a report that is submitted to the judge, the attorneys, and the social workers. Court occurs for a regular case once every 6 months, so that's twice a year you're expected to be in court and to be preparing a court report. For some cases, if there's something that's going on with that child or that child's placement or that child's family, it might be every 3 months. And that's something that's a case-by-case basis, and it's decided at the previous court hearing. So you are expected to submit a court report for that. There is extensive training that we do, myself and Kristen and Sally as supervisors do with the advocates to sort of show them how that court report is done. We work with you individually and provide all of the feedback that you might need in order to make that as painless as possible. And we help you with editing that and make sure that it's appropriate for court prior to any of that being submitted. Does anybody have any questions about that, court or courts? Okay. Another big question that we get is regarding the time commitment. So we have advocates from all backgrounds. We have advocates who are full-time students. We have advocates who work. We have advocates who are retired. There is a wide range of diversity in all of our advocates, which is a wonderful thing. A typical case we say to expect to put in about 10 hours each month. And again, that can fluctuate depending on the child and on the situation. If a child is, having a really hard time, or there's something that's going on in their case, you might put more hours in than that. If everything is going really well, it might be less time than that. But I would say on average, it would be about 10 hours a month. And again, that's really flexible. It's not a 9-to-5 job by any means. It can be, putting in an hour researching court stuff on, the weekend, and then spending 2 hours with the child, and then, going to an IEP meeting at a school. It really fluctuates depending on what the needs of that child are. Excuse me. Another question that we get quite often from people is whether or not the child that they are assigned to is able to interact with their family. I am fortunate enough to have a really lovely extended family. I would love to be able to bring the child that's assigned to me over to my parents' house and have them run outside. Unfortunately, that's not something that we can do. We need to protect the confidentiality of these children. So once a child is assigned to you, that child, you are the only one that is allowed to interact with them. There is a court order that is issued from the judge to you, assigning you to that child, that gives you legal rights to interact with that child, but that does not allow you to have your husband or wife or your children interact with that child, just because that would not be appropriate in maintaining their confidentiality. Is there any questions about that or anything else that has been discussed so far?
What type of activities or discussions, how is the time with the child spent? I guess is it counseling? Is it all of the above? Is it social? Is it having a day at the park? Or all of the above? None of the above.
All right, so I'll let Sally jump in because I saw her unmute herself.
Your role as an advocate is just to learn and get to know the child. You're not there in a therapeutic capacity. So you're, like you said, meeting with them in a social environment, learning the things that they're interested in. And then as you get to know the child better, being able to take them places, maybe the park, maybe a movie, maybe, bowling, the wide range of social activities. But yes, your role is, they typically, when they're in foster care, will have a counselor or therapist assigned. So that's not your role. Your role is to learn about their needs and so that you can report back to the court what's in their best interest.
And what would be the age range?
So we have children in care from birth to 21 years old. So it really, what you're doing with the child will depend on what age child you are working with. But foster care in Maryland can extend up to 21 years old.
So that's a good leeway into another. Oh, I'm sorry, Tom, I see you speaking, but you're muted. Oh, you're still muted. Hold on one moment. You might have to do it yourself. I'm trying to do it on my end, but I'm not able to. There you go.
Okay, am I on? Okay. Now, would you assign, like for an older person, would you assign an older, how does it work in terms of, I don't know. I've had Rugrats, but what would we be aligned with a young kid or somebody in their teen days or whatever?
Right, so that's a great question. Sally and myself and Kristen and Julia in normal times are going to court every time that there is a SINA hearing. So we are hearing the cases We know sort of a background of the children that are in care. So through training, we really try our best to get to know you. This is also something that's done when you're going to, if you decide to apply, you have to have an interview, either with myself or Sally or Julia. And during that interview, we ask you a lot of things about the ideal child that you would like to work with. So if you don't feel comfortable working with young children, that would be something that you could tell us. If you have, a certain age that you would like to work with, that is also really useful information. There's a lot of questions that we use to sort of get to know you and for us as a staff to work together to come up with the best possible fit that we feel for you. And we would also, prior to assigning you a child, would give you a little bit of the history of the case. You always have a chance to say that I don't feel like this is the correct fit for me. But that's essentially how it works. Go ahead.
Wouldn't the 18 to 21-year-olds be a little bit complicated?
I would say they're all complicated. It doesn't.
No. But I mean, particularly.
Yes, there's definitely a different type of need for our teenagers versus our younger children. The 18 to 21-year-old age range, they're considered transitional youth. So they're children typically who are never going to be adopted. They're children who are maybe moving into living on their own, and they really need somebody who can sort of help them navigate that part of their life. There is a lot of support through the Department of Social Services, but if they have another person in their life who's able to help them with some of those young adult skills that is hard for any person, but particularly hard for a child who possibly has not had any stability in their life. It takes a certain type of advocate, and we have some advocates who that's all they want to do is teenagers, and we have some advocates who never want to do teenagers, and both is perfectly fine. So that sort of leads me into the next part, which is the difference between a social worker and a CASA. We do have very different roles, and we do work hand in hand. So a social worker is somebody who is really, they are the custodians of that child when they are in foster care. They are required to see that child once a month. They, along with their supervisor, make a lot of the big decisions for that child as far as placement. They help guide their medical needs. They oversee, some of the education aspects. But again, the social worker is required to see them once a month, and they have huge caseloads. Our social workers are really overworked. They might have 20 or 30 cases, whereas a CASA doesn't have the same legal authority of a social worker, but we do have our time, and we do have our ability to really get to know that child on a more personal level. We have the ability to spend more time with that child, get to know the other people that are important in that child's life, and through getting to know all of those parties, that's how we are able to form our court report that is submitted to the judge. The judge takes a CASA report very seriously because we typically work with Judge Murray, and she knows that, CASA is really, we're not getting paid to do this, first of all. So it's something that if you are a CASA, it's something that you're passionate about. And, CASAs are just able to spend that extra time with a child. Would anybody else like to jump in on the social worker versus CASA role?
I just think it's important to just let people know that we don't have the same guidelines as social workers do. We aren't mandated to do certain things the way social workers are. So CASAs are definitely a different set of eyes and a different set of ears that are able to report back to the judge that aren't bound by a certain type of law.
Can you tell us what kind of things are in the report, the court report?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Seth.
So the court report looks at providing a whole picture of the child. They're going to look at, you're going to include a little bit about the history of the child, so that a brief history of why they came into care. You're going to review the contacts that you've had with the child and the things that you've done, so that you've learned to get more information about their interests and their needs. You're also going to include contacts that you've made with other outside organizations. And then ultimately, you're just painting a broad stroke picture of what their needs are, whether it's educational, psychological, medical, something based on their family needs. And then you're going to kind of sum that up with a general assessment of all the things that you've put into the report. And then you're going to make some recommendations at the end of the report. You're just kind of a bulleted thing of what the most important things that you feel are needed for that child. And they might be educational, they might be placement related, they might be, mental health related, those type of things. It's just an overall picture of the child's life and what you think they need to move towards a permanent home and stability in their lives.
So could you just give us an example, like a case study or something, just in a minute? I guess I'm not really clear on what it is the courts do. Are they deciding if the child should stay in that foster home or go back to their parents, or what is it the court's deciding?
So if they have typical reviews, every 6 months, they're looking at the progress that the parents or the family member that they were removed from is making towards reunification. So plans always start out with the goal of reunifying with the caregiver or parent that they were removed from. So a lot of the report is going to reflect the progress that the parents have made, and the whole system is going to look at, they have a specific amount of time that the parents need to make progress within the system before they start looking at, adoption or other custody arrangements for the child. The goal ultimately is to have them be in a permanent and stable home. So you're reviewing every 6 months the progress that the parent has made towards getting the child to be able to come back and live with them or not, depending on the circumstance. So that's what you're kind of looking at, while also looking at the specific needs of the child wherever they are currently placed. So whether it's a foster home or a group home, something like that.
So we would be meeting with the parents.
So part of your role is to try and get information from every aspect of the child's life. So meeting with the parents is definitely part of the role. Now, every case is different, and sometimes parents aren't willing to do that, but sometimes they are. So like we said, every case is different, but yeah, getting to know them, or you can get that information. Social workers also keep track of that. There's different ways that you can do that, but you're kind of monitoring their progress as part of it.
Mm-hmm. So the parents would typically live in Cecil County as well as the foster parent.
So every child who comes, excuse me, comes into care came in through Cecil County, and the parent was living in Cecil County, located in Cecil County at that time. However, that doesn't mean that they have stayed in Cecil County after their child is removed. Now, typically, yes, they are, but we do have parents that, end up living in Delaware, New York, Virginia, other places. So they don't have to stay in Cecil County, but our children are initially placed in Cecil County foster homes. However, as their case progresses and the needs of the child progress, they may end up moving to placements that are outside of Cecil County, a higher level foster home, which is called a therapeutic foster home, or a group home, or a treatment center, those type of things, which are not located in Cecil County. And that's not every case and every child, but some of our children do end up in placements outside of Cecil County. So that's part of what we talk about when we meet and have an interview with you as well, is your willingness, how far you're willing to travel to.
It's kind of a, I don't know, a problem thing is now in this litigious or whatever era, I mean, alone time with the kid, I mean, that can be kind of touchy too. I mean, if you follow, I mean, there could be allegations or whatever, and I mean, it's just something that you want to protect yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And we certainly encourage people. I would also say, when you first meet a child, they're going to want to go out to the park, or they want to go to McDonald's, or they want to go somewhere public. When you first meet them, it's going to usually be in whatever placement they're in. So if they're in a foster home, you're going to be meeting them with the foster parents. Oh, my internet can.
You were cutting out a good bit. Can everyone hear me? Okay. I think we missed, at least I did, missed a lot of what you were saying there, Anna, but you started to come back at the end if you want to repeat it.
Okay, I got to notice my internet connection was unstable. Is that better? Okay, sorry about that, guys. I was just saying that, typically when you first meet a child, they're going to want to do things out in public. They're going to want to go to the playground, or they're going to want to go to the movies, or they're going to want to, or maybe they just want to stay at the foster home because that's where they're most comfortable. So, you're certainly never bringing the child back to your house. That's going to cover a lot of your bases. But all of our advocates also undergo a background check. We make sure that everybody is fully checked out. We would never, want to put you in a situation or put a child in a situation where there was any, danger to them.
And we do discuss in our training ways to, avoid putting yourself in situations like that. And
guys, young men or boys, women with young women, I mean, that would seem.
It's definitely something that we take into consideration because of the world that we live in.
So I just wanted to jump back because I saw a lot of faces when we started talking about the court reports. Everybody was looking a little scared. And that is very common. That's probably what we hear the most from people about sort of what they're most scared, even after they've gone through the training about writing that court report. There is a lot of support that we try to provide to our advocates. Like I said, Sally and I are case managers, so we are in contact with the advocates that we manage on a very frequent basis. When it comes to any questions, like Tom, how you were, wondering where would be appropriate to meet, or there's all sorts of these questions that come up sort of at the last minute, like, okay, well, now this happened and what should I do? You always have the support of your supervisor to reach out to them and say, I don't know what to do now and what should I do? So we provide one-on-one support. We provide support groups, which actually is with all of our CASAs on a bi-monthly basis right now, where everybody can get together and talk about their cases and any concerns that they may have. We provide regular trainings. All of our CASAs, in addition to the initial training that you have to have 12 continuing hours of education every year. So we provide a lot of those trainings. So you would never feel like you were alone and that you didn't know what to do next. There's always somebody to reach out to.
And while the initial court report is intimidating, it's something, like you said, we go step by step through that with you individually. But once you have the first one written, a lot of it is just kind of filling in and updating the rest of the times that you write it. So the first one is the big one, but then the rest of the time you're just kind of filling in and updating the things that have changed since the last time you wrote it. You don't have to start from scratch. You just use the same format, same document and everything. So it sounds scary, but it's not too bad.
So I have a question, like how flexible is this as far as scheduling? Like the court dates are set in stone, like if I'm on a vacation, if I ever can go on one again, like how does that work?
Yeah, so the court dates are set in stone, but obviously we know everyone has their own lives. If you're unable to attend a court date, that's not the end of the world. We have your court report that was written and submitted ahead of time. And then if there's anything that you needed to add and you couldn't be there, Anna or myself are always there, so we can add those details in for you. We do encourage everyone to attend the court hearings because you get a lot of information out of those. But we understand that everyone has different aspects of their lives, so they might not be able to make every hearing.
And how far in advance do you know what that date is? I mean, typically I travel a lot, like 5 or 6 vacations a year. I don't know when that'll start up again, but.
So they always actually set the date at the previous hearing. So in theory, you would know 6 months ahead of time.
Okay.
You know, if it's a 3-month hearing, then you would know 3 months ahead of time, but they always set the date during the previous hearing.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. How many more of us are there? I mean, is this just a new team, or are there to join a larger group, or what?
Are you asking like how many CASAs do we have currently?
Yeah.
We have 67.
Oh, that's neat. We'd have a picnic.
And we do. We like to have fun activities. Unfortunately, this current situation has canceled a fun activity, but we want to get everyone together. It's a fun group of people, and we try and make, we're doing something that's a little heavy, but we try and get everyone together and have some fun too.
Sounds neat to me.
We have a great team, and you'll have a lot of people that you can connect with if you have questions. Feel free to always reach out, because you'll always need one of us, and we'll help you as much as we can. And we'll connect you with other CASAs that have been doing this for a while, so that you can learn from them as well.
Well, where do we go from here then?
That was next on my list.
Wow.
So if you're interested in applying, you can go to our website, which is cecilcasa.org. And Kristen.
Anna cut out right there, so it was cecilcasa.org. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure. And our application is on the website. If you just click on volunteer, you fill out the application, it comes to us, and somebody from the office will reach out to you.
No closer than 6 feet, though.
And as of today, you have to wear a mask always.
Right.
That's what I just heard.
And I think
also
that
wanted to say, oh, sorry, go ahead,
I
Seth.
was just going to say, I think if I don't have your email address, one of us does. So you're always welcome, if you have more questions after this conversation, to reach out to us and ask us any questions that you might have.
And if you know anybody that maybe would be interested, or this would be something that you think would interest them, we are recording this and we'll have it posted, and you can share the video with them too.
When does the online and in-person training program begin?
So we're still working through that with the current situations that are going on. We're still trying to figure that out, but as soon as we have more information, we'll let everybody know who has filled out an application.
All right, what I was going to say also is that if you go through all of this and you feel like advocating might not be the right thing for you, but you want to be involved in some way, we always need volunteers. We have events throughout the year. We're a grant-funded nonprofit organization, so we are always fundraising. We always need people to help in that way. So a lot of our advocates are awesome and do double duty, and they advocate for children and they also help during those events. But even if you feel like you advocating might not necessarily be right for you, we would love to help you, just have you help us maintain our program and in any way that you're able to. So if anybody has any other questions at this point, we've covered most of the topics that I had written down, but you're welcome to jump on and we can answer any questions you might have.
It was very good and very smooth for the Zoom process. I thought it was pretty good, pretty flawless.
Yep. Okay, thank
Once
you.
we got going.
Good. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We will be in contact with all of you. Just send you a quick email. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to give us a call or reach out to myself or Sally or any one of us in the office, and we'd be more than happy to help you.
So it's CASA.org or?
It is Cecil CASA, so CEC.
Cecil County. Okay.
Yep, CASA.org, and you can go on there and fill out your application. Somebody will be in contact with you regarding an interview. I'm not sure how we're managing that right now. They're typically in-person interviews. I'm going to leave that one up to Julia.
Well, that could be done, like it could be done out on my deck or something. I mean, we're outside and.
All right. Well,
we'll send that email address out in the follow-up email to you as well.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.